Sri Ramakrishna and pray for the well-being of the whole humanity. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine Avatar Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityor ma mritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Sri Ramakrishna has given practical instructions how to proceed towards God. And he has said many things, and it is very important for the spiritual aspirant to follow what Sri Ramakrishna has said. If you follow his instructions, you are sure to see him in this very life. You can have his vision, even you can get into samadhi. But then you have to work for it. You have to be very determined in achieving the goal. So he has given many practical instructions, and one of them he gave was, in order to go towards God, you must get rid of your ego. The whole world is just going on briskly on account of the play of the ego. Everyone is dominated by one's ego. One must become aware of that. If you are not aware, then you cannot proceed towards God. You must become aware of your weakness. Then you must take steps to get rid of that weakness. So, here everything is positive. You must do it. There is no question of postponing it or keeping quiet or not exerting oneself. So Sri Ramakrishna tells very clearly that all troubles come to an end when the ego dies. A person who is free from egotism knows that everything belongs to God. And it is He who is doing everything. And the devotee feels that he is only his instrument, just an instrument. Such a devotee says, I am the Son of God, I am His eternal child. God alone is a doer. He does everything. I am mere instrument. I do as God makes me do. All these wealth, possessions, nay, the universe itself belong to God. This house and these relatives are all His alone. So the devotee who is free from ego feels that he is God's servant. In that servant attitude, he feels he is totally free from ego. He feels always that it is his right to serve. And he will do according to God's bidding. This is knowledge. If by the grace of God a person but once realizes all this, he at once becomes liberated while in life and sees God. Sri Ramakrishna says that for an embodied soul, it is difficult to get rid of the ego. We may know it, but in practice it is difficult. It is true. But then you should not keep quiet simply because it is difficult. And it seems difficult because you can't do it by reasoning, because again the I comes back unawares. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a peepful tree. You cut it to the very root today, you will notice it sprouts springing up again next day. So, Sri Ramakrishna advises that it is rather very difficult to get rid of ego altogether, but then it has to remain, but let it remain in some form. And Swami himself suggests that let the I remain as the servant I. As long as you live, you should say, O Lord, you are the master and I am your servant and devotee. The I that feels I am the servant of God, I am His devotee, doesn't injure one. One can also get rid of the ego by samadhi, and that is very rare and difficult. So the ego of bhakti, devotion, can be developed by surrendering oneself to God. The devotee says, O Lord, I do as you want me to do it, as you do through me. I am the machine, you are the operator. I am the house, you are the indweller. I am the engine, You are the engineer. And Sri Ramakrishna again suggests, give your power of attorney to God. Make over all your responsibilities to Him. Let Him do as He likes. Live in the world like a cast-off leaf in a gale. Sometimes it is blown to a good place, sometimes to a bad. God has put you in the world. What can you do about it? Resign everything to Him. Surrender yourself at His feet. Then you will realize that it is God who does everything. There will be no more confusion. Sri Ramakrishna advises that your surrendering should be as absolute as that of the kitten to its mother. The kitten knows only how to call its mother, crying mew mew. It remains satisfied wherever its mother puts it. And the mother cat puts the kitten sometimes in the kitchen, sometimes on the floor, and sometimes on the bed of the master of the house. When it suffers, it cries only mew mew. That's all it knows. But as soon as the mother hears the cry, wherever she may be, she comes to the kitten. So you must adopt some method by which you should be able to subdue your ego. It's very important. It's very important. If you become aware of that, you won't become upset for all things that might happen in the course of day. Things do happen. Things will not happen always according to our likes, and they go against our likes also. But then why should we feel hurt? So if you know the thing, then you can minimize the suffering. Sri Ramakrishna advises the aspirants to follow the path of devotion. It is supremely great, path of bhakti, supremely great. Never think that the path of devotion is inferior to the path of knowledge. Never, never, never think like that. It's an independent path, it's a glorious path, it leads to the vision of God, it leads to samadhi, it leads to liberation. It is supremely great. And Sri Ramakrishna tells you one can undoubtedly reach God by following the paths of knowledge and karma, action. But again Sri Ramakrishna tells they are very difficult paths. It's not easy. The path of action, not easy. Sri Ramakrishna is telling, it is not our telling. Sri Ramakrishna knows how difficult it is to form, to conduct oneself selflessly. And always karma drags you towards something unpleasant. And you will have to be extremely careful in maintaining your spiritual attitude while you are practicing the path of karma. No doubt they are the paths, they also lead one towards God. But in this Kali Yuga, the life of man is dependent on food. He can't get rid of the feeling that he is the body and the ego. He is always conscious of his body. Because he is constantly moving with his body. He is moving with his mind. Wherever he goes, the body is coming with him and mind is coming with him. It's all the time with him and he is all the time with the body and mind. How can you get rid of that? So as long as you are conscious of the body and the unconscious of the mind, the path of devotion prescribed by Narad is the best path for the cycle. The best path, superlative degree. These are the words of Sri Ramakrishna. The best path in this age is the path of devotion. In the path of devotion, the ego cannot raise its ugly head. It cannot rise. It will not allow you. It will not allow. And you are trained in such a way that ego doesn't harm you at all. And Sri Ramakrishna is telling again and again, this is an easy path. The path of bhakti. What is bhakti? Again Sri Ramakrishna tells, it is to adore God. Adore Him with mind, with body, and with words. Body, mind and words. And Sri Ramakrishna himself explains it. What do you mean by adoring God with body? What does it mean? With body means to serve and worship God with one's hands. Go to holy places, sacred places, on one's feet. Hear the chanting of the name and glories of God with one's ears, and behold the divine image with one's eyes. Using your senses in this way, you are adoring God. With mind signifies constant contemplation and meditation on God and His sport. With words means to sing hymns to Him and chant His name and glories, doing bhajan, singing. Bhakti is thus love of God. Love of God. Love Him even as the mother loves her child, the chaste wife her husband, and the worldly man his wealth. Add all these and give it to God, and you will certainly see Him. Love of God is the essence of all spiritual disciplines. Through it, one acquires renunciation and discrimination naturally, and one's mind and soul merge in Him. He loves God so much, he doesn't want anything but God. He doesn't want to part with God any time. Everything can be achieved through bhakti alone. Those who want knowledge of Brahman will certainly achieve that too by following the path of devotion. If one is able to love God, one doesn't lack anything. Sri Ramakrishna cites his personal experience. Weeping, I prayed to Mother, "O Mother, reveal to me what is contained in the Vedas and the Vedanta. Reveal to me what is in the Purana and the Tantra." And Sri Ramakrishna tells, one by one, the mother has revealed all these to me. She arranged competent teachers so that I could realize them. Sri Ramakrishna is telling that. How to achieve bhakti for God? One obtains love of God by constantly chanting His name, singing His glories and praying to Him with a longing heart. While worshipping God, one should assume a definite attitude. For an ordinary jiva, the embodied being, according to Sri Ramakrishna, the attitude of a servant towards his master is good. Weep for him in a solitude with a restless soul and ask him to reveal himself to you. By repeating his name, sins disappear, and lust and anger and the desire for creature comforts are destroyed. It also attenuates the effects of past actions. Bhakti Yoga is the religion for the modern age. And by following this path, one comes to God more easily than by following others. In bhakti, the mind and soul must be absorbed in God. Then comes bhava, the higher form of devotion. And again Sri Ramakrishna instructs that one should not keep on reasoning and arguing about God. Many have the tendency to argue and reason about matters concerning God. Whether God has form, whether God has no form, what about his real nature, what are his manifestations, how he acts, what are his incarnations, and so on and so forth. But Sri Ramakrishna warns that it is not good to reason too much. The ways of God are inscrutable. Is it possible to understand God's ways? What can a man understand of God's activities? God's creation is infinite, limitless. I don't try to understand God and His creation at all. I have heard that everything is possible in God's creation, and I always bear that in mind. Sri Ramakrishna says that as long as a man analyzes with the mind, he cannot reach the absolute. As long as you reason with your mind, you have no way of getting rid of the universe and the objects of the senses. Form, taste, smell, touch and sound. When reasoning stops, you attain the knowledge of Brahman. Atman cannot be realized through this mind. Atman is realized through the Atman alone. Pure mind, pure buddhi or intellect, pure Atman, these are all one and the same. When the mind is annihilated and when it stops deliberating pros and cons, then one goes into samadhi and attains knowledge of Brahman. Too much reasoning throws the mind into confusion. What will a man gain by merely reasoning about the words of the scriptures? People keep on reasoning over information about the path. They never take the plunge. What a pity. Why argue and reason? First comes God and then the world. Realize God first. Then you will know about His world. He will clear all your doubts and then you can reason about the scriptures and the world if you wish. The nearer you approach God, the less you reason and argue. When you attain Him, then all sounds, all reasoning and disputing come to an end. You go into samadhi, into communion with God in silence. You have come to the orchard to eat mangoes. What's the good of calculating how many trees there are in the orchard, how many thousands of branches and how many millions of leaves? One cannot realize truth by futile arguments and reasoning. Through too much reasoning, your spiritual life will be injured. So everything should have a limit. If you cross the limit, instead of helping you, it helps in opposite way. So, Sri Ramakrishna is instructing that the path of devotion is most suitable in this age. And you can really feel the presence of God, and you can really have His vision, and you can have samadhi. All this is possible if you just cultivate love of God. So, of course, everything depends on your belief that God is present and God is there. Your whole spirituality depends upon this faith. If you don't believe that there is God, then you cannot proceed even a step in the spiritual path. So, if you believe there is God, that itself is a great credit for you. It's a great merit. You have understood. At least you have come to know that there is God and He is there taking care of the whole universe, all the creatures. How much love He is pouring forth in so many ways. And we are so ungrateful. We don't even try to give out even a particle of love towards Him, even though we get so much from God. Well, the path of devotion is the path of love. Everybody knows the value of love. Sri Ramakrishna tells, give right direction to the love. You know how to love your wife, you know how to love your husband, you know how to love your children, you know how to love your wealth, your possession. Same way, love God. Turn all this towards Him. Make a sum total of all this love and just offer it to God. You get everything, whatever you want. And you will be supremely satisfied by coming to God. You won't lose anything. On the other hand, you gain everything more than what you deserve. And you will be overwhelmed with joy. Because of that overwhelming joy, you get into samadhi. You feel you don't want to come back from that highest state of joy. That is the result of practicing devotion, and Sri Ramakrishna tells you to practice that with all earnestness. Of course, everything is possible if you are really aspiring to see God. Not superficial aspiration. It must be deep. Deep means you must be very sincere in your aspiring for God. Yes, I do really want God. You must be conscious of that aspiration 100%. Then you will see how miraculously you will reach the goal. And all help will come, all grace will come, everything will come. Page 638, Sri Ramakrishna said to M, what about your school? M means Master Mahashaya. He said, today is a holiday, sir. Master said smilingly, tomorrow there will be a musical recital of the Chandi at Adhar's house. The host sent a Pandit to Sri Ramakrishna. He saluted the master and took a seat. Soon they were engaged in conversation. They talked about spiritual things. Master said, God incarnates Himself for the bhakta and not for the jnani. Pandit said, Pandit said, I incarnate myself in every age for the protection of the good, for the destruction of the wicked, and for the establishment of dharma. Pandit quotes that God becomes man first for the joy of the bhakta, and secondly for the destruction of the wicked. The jnani has no desire. Master smilingly said, but I have not get rid of all desires. I have the desire for love of God. The Pandit's son entered the room. He saluted the master and took a seat. Master said to the Pandit, well, what is bhava? And what is bhakti? Pandit said, meditation on God mellows the mind. This mellowness is called bhava. It is like the thawing of ice when the sun rises. Master said, well, what is prema? The Pandit and Sri Ramakrishna were talking in Hindustani. The farmer gave some sort of explanation of prema. Master said to the Pandit, no, that's not the meaning. Prema means such love for God that it makes a man forget the world and also his body, which is so dear to him. Chaitanya Deva had prema. Pandit said, yes sir, one behaves like a drunkard. Master said, some people develop bhakti and others do not. How do you explain that, sir? Pandit said, there is no partiality in God. He is a wish-fulfilling tree. Whatever a man asks of God, he gets, but he must go near the tree to ask the boon. The Pandit said all this in Hindustani. The master explained it to him in Bengali. Master said, sir, please describe samadhi to us. Then Pandit said, there are two kinds of samadhi, savikalpa and nirvikalpa. In nirvikalpa samadhi, the functioning of the mind stops altogether. Master said, yes, the mind completely takes the form of reality. The distinction between the meditator and the object of meditation does not exist. There are two other kinds of samadhi, Chetana and Jada. Narada and Shukadeva attained Chetana Samadhi. Isn't that true, sir? Pandit said, yes, sir, that it is so, it is so. Master said, further, there are the Unmana Samadhi and the Sthita Samadhi. Isn't that true, sir? Pandit remained silent. He didn't venture an opinion. Master said, well, sir, through the practice of japa and austerity, one can get occult powers, such as walking on the water of the Ganges. Isn't that true? Pandita answered, yes, one can, but a devotee doesn't want them. The conversation continued for some time. The Pandit said he would visit the master at Dakshineshwar the next Ekadashi day. Master said, oh, your boy is very nice. Pandit said, well, revered sir, all this is transitory. It is like the waves in a river. One gets down and another comes up. Master said, you have substance in you. After a few minutes, the Pandit saluted Sri Ramakrishna. He said, I shall have to perform my daily devotions. Please let me go. Master said, oh, sit down, sit down. The Pandit sat down again. The conversation turned to Hatha Yoga. The Pandit discussed the subject with the master in Hindustani. Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, that's also a form of austerity. But the Hatha Yogi identifies himself with his body. His mind dwells on his body alone. The Pandit took leave of the master. Sri Ramakrishna conversed with the Pandit's son. Master said, one can understand the Bhagavat well if one has already studied the Nyaya, the Vedanta and the other systems of philosophy. Isn't that so? Pandit's son said, yes sir, it is very necessary to study the Sankhya philosophy. The conversation went on. Sri Ramakrishna was leaning against a big pillow. The devotees were sitting on the floor. Lying in that position, the master began to sing. Brother, joyfully cling to God, thus striving, someday you may attain Him. Their host entered the room and saluted Sri Ramakrishna. He was a pious man and devoted to the master. The Pandit's son was still there. The master asked if the Panini, the Sanskrit grammar, was taught in the schools. He further asked about the Nyaya and the Vedanta philosophies. The host did not show much interest in the discussion and changed the subject. Host said, Reverend sir, what's the way for us? Master said, chanting the name and glories of God, living in the company of holy men and earnestly praying to God. We shall stop here. So, what's the question? If you have any questions, you may ask. We may discuss. You are free to follow any path you want to. Sri Ramakrishna is only suggesting there are so many paths. Some paths are easy, some paths are very difficult. That's all. But all paths lead to the same goal. There is no doubt about it. Whatever path you may follow, you have to follow steadfastly with great devotion, and you must follow carefully, knowing fully well that you are going in the spiritual path. That's all. That's what is needed. And Sri Ramakrishna himself tells that in this modern age, the easiest way to experience God is through devotion. And if you develop the devotion, you develop love towards God. Once that love matures, you get everything. That's the substance of my today's talk. Anything to ask? Any question? He has got something, or some observation, or some comments. No? Do you have any question? Do you have any question? Anyway, Sri Ramakrishna's instructions are crystal clear. There is no turbidness of anything. Remarkably clear, as clear as Ganga. Ganga from Haridwar, not from Benares, Ganga from Haridwar. Pure water, purest water. I had gone to Gomukhi, where Mother Ganga just comes out like a baby and spreads out. Huge. What a fine water it was. Excellent, superb. All right, we shall stop. We are worshipping Lord Shiva, the master of renunciation. Yogishwara. He is called Yogishwara, Lord Shiva. And very auspicious day. It is most important from the spiritual point of view, and you are all struggling in spiritual life. It is very important to have the grace of Lord Shiva. And it is said that Shiva is very easy to grant boons. So, that way you come closer to God. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within, whose name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself, O self, drowned deep in the waves of his bliss, tasting his nectar at every step, bathing in his name that bought fair weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy, consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Ah, how I long for the day when an instant separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrated at thy feet let me be in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence. Though it tears my soul asunder, O thou who stealest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere, may all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous reign in tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.